Hi everyone. Welcome to Module 13 of Kinesiology 2050 Applied Health and Well-Being. This is on interpersonal communication. And so what I'm going to do in this introductory video is just kind of walk you through what this week is going to be about, and also what is going to be your assignments or your deliverables. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about effective communication. And first of all, it's really important in effective communication is understanding why you're communicating in the first place, because that's a really important piece to be able to move forward into what effective communication is. If you're communicating just to make the other person wrong, chances are the communication isn't going to go very well. But we also have two other possibilities. One is that you just really need to be heard around something, and there are very effective ways to actually be able to be heard. Because if you're blaming, shaming, or judging another person, chances are they're really not going to hear what you need them to hear. The other possibility is that you really need a resolution to a lingering problem. And again, there are really important ways to go about an effective resolution. Making another person wrong and only pointing out that they're wrong in that communication really isn't going to be an effective means to finding a resolution. So we're going to talk about three different things. We're going to talk about the 12 ways to good communication, which 12 ways to good communication is really just about foundations to have in place to be able to communicate effectively. Good eye contact, a full presence, not playing with your devices, and we'll go through all of those. But those, again, are really just about setting the foundations. And then we're going to talk about a method of communication called nonviolent communication, which really makes you or encourages you to own your own experience and also be empowered by your own experience in being able to make a request to resolve or to come to a resolution of a problem. And it's very specific in the way that it asks you to evaluate a situation, and from a point of observing and stating your own needs around a certain problem. Again, it's based on non-blame, shame, and judgment, and really an effective way to really present your experience around an event or a situation that needs resolution, and then begin to find a way to ask for some kind of resolution. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about something called the language of parts. And the language of parts is a language that I think is really helpful, because it helps us to understand that we have different parts of our personality that are developed along the way because of things that are stored in our implicit memory. And I'm going to invite you back to some of the readings that we did in the Unstressed book about understanding how certain things get stored in our perception and our implicit memory, and then how those things come up into parts of our own behavior, whether parts of us that get angry or parts of us that get sad or parts of us that get disgusted or parts that are always trying to control everything. And what understanding all of those parts helps you realize is usually people will say a part of me feels this or a part of me feels that, but they're not really their deepest part. And so the idea is to recognize when these parts have kind of taken over our consciousness and really get back into that deep grounded self, aside from those parts, and then communicate from those deep grounded self. So I'm going to go through a whole process and just kind of let you know what those are. And then also we're going to watch some videos that talk about nonviolent communication, and also kind of is a really good representative of the parts. So your homework, again, you should be reading part 3 in Unstressed up to a page 176 where it says examine your time budget and energy deposits. The part I'm asking you to read in Unstressed is about the stories you tell. The stories you tell about yourself, the stories you tell about others, and the stories you tell about events. And those stories really are usually told by parts, or by parts that we expect to show up in other people, and they're really not mostly seen through our grounded self. And so what that reading is encouraging you to do is kind of let go of some of the stories that you routinely tell about yourself and about others, and kind of be open to new stories. So that's just kind of laying the foundation. Then I want you to read the posted reading on nonviolent communication. It's a very, very, very short reading, but it kind of spells it out in a good way. And then number 3, read the posted reading on internal family systems. You don't need to read that. That's the parts part, and I actually thought the video was way better than have you doing a reading on that. So you don't need to do number 3. Number 4, watch the Module 13 content video. This is super important. It's kind of long. I'm giving you a heads up right now, but what it does is it walks you through the assignments. So when you're done with Module 13, if you are keeping up with writing the assignments as you go through, which you should be because that's what it's designed to have you do, then you will be done with your assignments. So be ready with something to write with. I don't care if it's a pen and pencil or a computer, but you need to be ready to write as you're going through the video, because it's going to kind of present certain topics and then it's going to ask you to stop and write. The things that it's going to ask you to stop and write is it's going to ask you to write an example of communication using the steps of nonviolent communication. So what I'm going to do is ask you to kind of look at problematic conversations in your life and then reimagine them around the steps that we're going to be learning this week or through this module. And again, all the instructions are in the video. Also, there are a few templates that will be really helpful for you to print out, just because it kind of gives you some directions in how to do the writing if the video isn't enough. The video should be enough, but if it's not enough, then you have a template to just kind of follow in the way that I want the writing done. Then after you do the nonviolent communication, you're also going to write a reflection identifying some of your own parts. And again, this will make a lot more sense once you watch the part of the video. But you're going to just kind of identify some parts of yourself that kind of usually take over your behavior and your consciousness. And when they do that, it doesn't lend itself very well to good communication. So it's really important to reflect on those and kind of understand when those have kind of taken over your consciousness, so you can get back to a more grounded state to be able to have good communication. Then there's a template for effective communication. Print that template up, and that's going to ask you then to put everything together that you did, and then you're going to articulate a conversation that you might have that in the past has been problematic using the communication strategies defined in class. So I'm going to ask you to write down the kind of the foundation of some of the 12 steps that are important to you. You don't have to repeat all the 12 steps. I just want you to write the 12 steps that are important to you. Then again, you're going to use the example of parts, and you're going to combine kind of the steps of nonviolent communication and actually write out the narrative of a conversation in a way that you would have it following the steps of nonviolent communication. And again, you already did this in the video, but what I'm doing is I'm asking you to do some parts or pieces, again, a piece of nonviolent communication, then a piece of the parts, and then you're going to actually put it together in a more standardized format following the template. Don't write on the template itself because it really doesn't give you enough room to do that. I just wrote out the template to give you an example of what I wanted. So it's basically going to be 3 pieces. You're going to do the kind of the first writing on nonviolent communication, the first writing on the parts, and then you're going to actually articulate in more depth than you did at the beginning, articulate a whole conversation, including the foundation of what that conversation would look like, and kind of the things that you would need to be in place under the 12 pieces of good communication. But again, just kind of follow the template along. And then as always, you're going to engage in your weekly wellness activities and behavior change activities, and then submit a summary of that. So you're just submitting 2 things this week. The first thing has a lot of pieces to it, but it's one document with nonviolent communication parts and then a whole articulated conversation that you're writing the narrative to, as if you would have it using all the tools and the skills in this video. And then you're also going to turn in your weekly wellness activities. So, and again, following the templates will really help you understand exactly what I'm asking for. So have a really good week.